One of the hardest working guys in any week is a guy I've known for quite some months now. In fact, a couple of years, but he's an Arsenal fan, so I don't try and talk about it too much. His name is Rob Rees. He wears, with great honour, the MBE tag, but he has so many other strings to his bow. He's the CEO of Cultivating Community. I want you to tell me what Cultivating Community is all about, and what else are you up to. Rob Rees, welcome to TheInformer.
Thank you. Cultivating Community, I took the role on as Chief Exec, additional role, on the 1st of March, so what, 10 days before
almost the length of the COVID pandemic.
And I took on that role. I was appointed because it's all about food and food systems. Everything from community gardens right through to cooking clubs with children, community meals. It's everything that drives my purpose.
And we're seeing so many fabulous assistants now and community helpers coming in and adding to the kitchens and providing so many disadvantaged with meals.
The awareness, those of us involved in food systems know it's been broken for decades, and we've advocated for change. What the pandemic has shown to us is in everybody's face how broken it is, and we're trying to find ways to solve it.
So what can we do? What are the sorts of things that you'd love to do? Let's get this magic wand out that we like to award people every now and then, or hand it to them. If we could get the magic wand to work, what would it be doing, and where would you be casting the spell?
Yeah, well, let's focus on real solutions before then we talk about the government issues and how we've got to change that.
Sure.
Look, we need to grow more food, more fresh food, more culturally appropriate food, particularly here in Melbourne. We have to revitalise and rejuvenate the urban side of growing. So that means more rooftop gardens, utilising as much space as we possibly can, creating living box schemes where there's lack of light or growing.
Do councils understand when they're standing up and giving and putting in all the red tape with each and every development? And we're seeing more and more density each and every year of our city, and we're seeing it right across Australia. Do they get the message? Do councils get the message?
I think City of Melbourne particularly gets it. I think Yarra City Council particularly get it. Not so
much.
Not so sure.
Okay.
And I think that's about up till now. There's been different priorities, but what the pandemic has shown, and particularly when we show solutions to that and where we are growing. So, Cultivating Community, for instance, we've got an extra 6,000 square metres growing just during the pandemic, to solely sow seeds to feed culturally appropriate meals to those in food relief. So we've planted 750,000 seeds in this season alone.
What crops are you putting in there?
Everything from, so what we've chosen is the traditional crops that are more expensive. So we're not planting carrots and potatoes and turnips and things like that. It's Russian kale, it's perpetual spinach, it's Vietnamese herbs. It's all of those kind of products. It's pok choys and all of those things. And they're topping up all these fantastic fresh food parcels.
Which is very prevalent in our modern cuisines.
Yes, absolutely is. Okay. And also actually relatively easy to cook.
Yes.
If you look at a traditional food bank model, for instance, that will be very high calories, typically quite highly processed food. Yes, there's a need because you want to give people energy to see them through the next 24 hours. But actually all you're doing, if you're continuing that cycle, is perpetuating the issue of the double burden of malnutrition and obesity side by side. Plus, when you actually look at the people that we're working with as Cultivating Community, that's not what they want. They actually enjoy fresh, wholesome, homegrown, local, tasty, simple produced food. So look, that's one of the things. Let's increase the amount of space that we can grow urban grown.
So one thing.
Let's really narrow down what we mean by talking about everybody having access to affordable, healthy, nutritious food, so that it's equitable across the whole system. Because you can't produce that really great quality fresh food on a scale for a consumer without then squeezing the farmer. And that's not what we want to do. So we have to find a way that it's equitable across the whole system. That possibly comes from having more social enterprises as cooperatives working together to solve those problems. Moving Feast, which is the collaboration that's come out of the pandemic, is 18 social enterprises working together, breaking down the barriers of what they've normally had in terms of their business models. Wouldn't that be wonderful if every business worked in that way, and actually just
more collegiate approach.
We're open, we're transparent, and went, okay, here's the problem. Right, can you solve it? Yeah, get on with it, do it. And that's what we've done. We've been really agile during this pandemic as 18 organisations playing to our strengths and finding ways to solve all these problems. If you have it with a social enterprise model, you're also getting this strong ethical approach to the system. You're more likely, we know in Moving Feast, for instance, that the people that have been producing the meals that went into the housing estates only last weekend, many of those have been asylum seekers themselves. They might have been previous offenders. We know Fruit to Work, the distribution network, they're previous offenders. So we're completely thinking about how you solve all of these societal and social justice problems from the bottom to the top, all the way through. So that's really important. I'm always going to say investing into cooking. We've seen the growth in cookery as a result of the pandemic. It's wonderful to see. You're on my Facebook group, you know, which is fantastic, where people are just sharing what they've cooked.
Well, there's great delight in it because one, they have a time. They now have time. The one thing they're not short of is time poor. They're time rich now. It's how best to make use of that time. So we're seeing people nesting. Like never before.
Nesting is right.
So they're buying online like you wouldn't believe. But incredibly, we're seeing the rise of this cooking phenomena, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But can we make it better?
Well, of course we can, and that means making sure that we let's keep cooking is what we want at Cultivating Community. That's what we want to see. The best way for that to happen for our audience, you know, which is the majority of the housing estates. So we're in 21 housing estates across Melbourne in terms of community gardens.
And we're talking huge numbers of communities.
36 different languages. 36 different languages, and that's why we get frustrated with what's happened in previous weeks. But if you can bring it alive by those individuals, by listening to what they want and let them tell their story and celebrate their cuisines, more people will come. Organisations like Free to Feed are brilliant at that.
Oh yeah, and culturally responsible too. Yeah, you're respecting their culture and you're giving them food that's appropriate.
It has to come from a community. That's the thing. I've been chefing for years, too many years, and I've been to many cuisines and cultures around the world.
Not bad for a boy who joined the Navy.
It's all right, you know. But what truly gets people to move from position A to position B is if it comes from their own community. So our job at Cultivating Community is to nurture that, to get that joy, that connection with the earth and the food systems going, and allow those individuals to run with it.
Now there's another problem, and we're running out of time, but I want to cover it. You've been tremendous at trying to get people to change the way we feed our children at school. And one of the great challenges right now through COVID is